Well, it's just after 6 o'clock on a Monday morning after the first ever Indian Grand Prix, and I'm homeward bound on an Air India flight. Very good airline, actually, surprisingly efficient and clean. I say surprisingly because of all the things we've heard over the years. A bit like the country itself and their ability to stage a round of the Formula One World Championship. Could it ever happen? As recently as 6 to 8 weeks ago, I was interviewing Karun Chandok, and he was saying, "I'll believe it when I see it." And I think that was the view of virtually everybody involved in Formula One. But of course, things do happen here, and from the moment I arrived, I was nothing but surprised. We got into the taxi, we drove away, big billboards immediately on the right. I think it was Jensen Button. We saw a very nice drive to the hotel, magnificent hotel, built in 1931, lovely touch in every dimension, nothing overdone, and a real pleasure. Rowan Atkinson then arrived shortly afterwards, so it had to be a good place. If Blackadder's there, what else matters? It was a week of contrast, of course, because India is still this dichotomy between the very poor and the more affluent, although I would say that the affluent side of India is less in your face than many of the other countries we visit these days, the new frontier countries, where the wealth is very, very glitzy. Here there is a certain, dare I use the word spirituality about the country, which is touching. And I was speaking to an Indian last night, a friend of mine, and we were talking about that. And obviously there's a lot of wealth here in certain sectors, small minority as ever, but equally it is a God-fearing country, and that shows through with the demeanour of the people. And Sebastian Vettel, the world champion, touched on that several times when asked throughout his weekend what he thought about India, what he thought about the country, was he enjoying his trip. And he always made the point that the Indians are happy people. Of course, that's a glib thing to say. It's a bit of a cliche, and probably it's not true even as a generalism, because there's a lot of unhappiness here, like any country in the world. But at the same time, there's a certain dignity about the people. And as we drove towards the circuit, and we saw the terrible poverty in which some people live. Nonetheless, from that poverty emerged kids with smiling faces, young girls in beautifully clean, coloured attire, and it brings tears to your eyes. It is absolutely wonderful to see. The trip to the Media Accreditation Centre on Friday was an adventure in itself, and the basic problem was that in order to get to the Media Accreditation Centre, you had to have an official car pass, and of course to get an official car pass you had to get to the Media Accreditation Centre. And so we went round and round and round. It was a lot of fun, and of course being directed by the police to go the wrong way down a one-way street under a motorway against oncoming traffic coming out of the circuit after watching a bit of activity on Friday there was extremely impressive. So that was a lot of fun. When we got to the Media Accreditation Centre, to my surprise, the two girls that were running it primarily were the two that we knew and loved from the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang. They had been subject to abuse all day, as you can imagine, from irate journalists unable to find this mysterious Media Accreditation Centre, which turned out actually to be in a sort of courtyard of a farm. So it was in itself interesting, and so I felt very sorry for them. So I wore a Malaysian 07 Grand Prix cap the next day in tribute to their and their steadfastness in the face of much anger from the international media. There was a stellar night on Friday night. It was a Tag Heuer event for the screening of the Senna movie. Manish Pandey, I think I've got the pronunciation correct now, was there with Asif, his producer and director. And it was the glitterati. It was the time for Formula One really to make its entrance, if you like, into Indian society. The red carpet was there. Mr. Roy from Sahara was there. Much twittering and nervousness before he arrived. A huge figure in Indian life and culture. Sport is so much a part of the life here in India, and Sahara a huge part of that in their sponsorship already of the Indian cricket team. And now, of course, part ownership of Force India Formula One.
Formula One, this is such a popular race. In any sport event, if there's lots of thrill, speed, excitement. People, they love it. You see, in certain sports you like to participate and then you enjoy it. But in certain sports, you cannot participate, you don't know it. But you love it because of its speed and thrill and all this excitement.
Lewis Hamilton was due to arrive, so was Adrian Sutil. Adrian didn't come, and it was a bona fide excuse. I spoke to him the next day because his driver got lost and they left a little bit late. Not Adrian's fault, which was a shame, but at the same time, Lewis did arrive, and it was great to see him. Karun Chandok was there too, and I managed to get a word to Karun as he stepped off the red carpet to get his feel after the first day of running as third driver on the Friday for Team Lotus.
Very special, the team were nice enough to let me do the first ever timed lap of the circuit, so a little bit of history for myself. Very special for Indian motorsport. We had a great atmosphere today, lots of fans. Media has been fantastic in India. The coverage in the newspapers and TV channels the whole week. I did 54 individual interviews from Monday to Thursday this week, which tells you the amount of media coverage we've had. So it's fantastic. A very, very great moment for Indy Motorsport.
Feelings about the circuit?
I think they've done an outstanding job. I spoke to Jensen, I spoke to Mark, Sebastian, Michael. They're all very impressed with the job that's been done this week. So I think everyone's suitably impressed.
Just a great gathering of people, enormous interest around Formula One in such a way that the atmosphere there was not the sort of atmosphere you would have seen at a similar event in China or Korea or even, I hate to say, at the US Grand Prix at Indy. A lot of pre-race promotion here, and Lewis Hamilton is a huge figure in India already. It was moving to go to the track on Sunday morning for the start of what will be an epic journey for Formula One in India. There's no doubt that it will succeed here. There's no doubt that this race, the drivers have done great work already. Of course, India as a team will unlock, I believe, the floodgates. There's a slight issue here about the big companies in India are big mainly on a regional, national basis, not on a global basis, because India is such a big country, 1.2 billion people. How many global companies are there here? But on the other side of the coin, what one can perceive for the future is large global companies, American companies, European companies, wanting to expand into India and coming and doing so on the back of Formula One, and that perhaps is where a lot of the potential sponsorship money in this country is going to come from. But as we drove into the circuit, two things struck me. One, with a number of satellite news channel vans all stacked up just beyond the boundary line of rights television. In other words, they didn't want to pay any rights, obviously, but equally they were desperate to cover this event, and it was kind of sad actually. A lot of these news satellite TV channels there, all the presenters there, fans around them, but ultimately they were waiting for the teams perhaps to stop, or Lewis or Fernando or Jensen to say, "How well, yeah, I'll come out and I'll do a quick interview." Of course, it didn't happen. That doesn't happen in Formula One. They stick very much to their structure, but it's a shame because there was a lot of television to be done out there, 30 seconds of a soundbite, and all these crews were there, a bit dilapidated, but they all worked, and it was good stuff. And you never see that at other Grand Prix. And that was something that, to me, characterised enthusiasm and the passion that is already instilled in this race. And then beyond that, the other side of a drainage ditch was a little community. There was a goat herd, there were a few dogs, a few cattle, little kids running around in the dust, eating basically scraps, I gotta say, right by the Formula One circuit. I went in there, lovely people, all wanted to be photographed, wanted smiling, didn't want money, didn't in any way want anything other than just to show that they knew something exciting was going on, and wasn't it a great day. And that to me really summed up my Indian Grand Prix was it wasn't so much the contrast between the rich and the poor and the number of private jets that came into India for this race, although the media loved to talk about that. It was the other side of Indian life, but it wasn't a degrading side of life. It was showing how we're all human beings on this planet Earth, and we can all enjoy our life, providing we respect the rights of others and providing we have some dignity, and that's what really came through for me from this weekend. Monday morning, 4:30 departure from the hotel, I finally got to ride in one of the ambassador cabs, as they call them. Actually, it's a Morris Oxford or Morris Cowley, and my dad used to have a Morris Cowley when we emigrated to Australia in '57. Great car, same body shell. These are all built in India, but I've been wanting to ride in one all week, and the ride to the airport was beautiful. Beautifully driven, not very fast, but lovely gear changes, no lumps in the braking or the acceleration, and a very gentle, nice car, a bit like a boat really, of course. And that is another side of Indian life as well. We've already got Karun and Narain, and we will have more drivers. And one thing's for sure, they do drive well in India, and you can see it in the taxi drivers, and you can see what's going on. They're not very good, I think, in the pit release bit. I mean, sometimes you see some very near misses going on, but generally speaking, the standard of the driving is very high, much higher than you would see in China, for example, where there's a lot of on-off throttle on the straight even in a taxi, let alone as they're braking for a corner or attempting to brake. But here, everybody's got a sort of calm demeanour about them. They seem to know what they're doing. I will be willing to bet that there will be a very strong seam of Indian drivers in Formula One in the medium-term future, and good luck to Sahara Force India for that young driver program that they are putting together. Anyway, they're just about calling the flight. Beautiful airport here, everything's organised, no queues at check-in, no queues at security, no queues at immigration. I don't know why, I have no idea. Go to China, Shanghai after the Chinese Grand Prix, it's a complete nightmare. This place is cool, it's calm, it's got a feel about it that is relaxing, and I'll be back. I'll be back not only for the next race, but I'll be back because I want to see more of India. It's been a wonderful experience, and hope you enjoyed it with me.